All right, let's begin. Hi guys, my name is Nameerah. I am with the Pakathon Toronto team, and I am very excited and very pleased to welcome you to our first webinar here, the first of several that we're planning for this year. And I'll begin by just quickly giving you a background on Pakathon. Pakathon started in 2013. Let me actually just quickly open up these slides. And please feel free, as we're doing this, to follow the conversation online on Twitter or send us messages via chat. So Pakathon is a global hackathon focused on Pakistan. Started in 2013, and we had 30 teams from a number of different chapters, over 250 participants in 3 cities. And then in 2014, we really took a big step forward. 150 teams, over 1,000 participants across 15 cities, divided between Pakistan and North America, with over $10,000 in prizes. And I wanted to quickly go back to what is a hackathon. For those who are not familiar with it, a hackathon is essentially a weekend-long event where participants from a number of different backgrounds come together to solve or try to solve particular problems. And so Pakathon, as you can guess, is a hackathon that focuses on issues in Pakistan. And over the last few years, we've been encouraging participants to come up with initiatives or solutions or approaches to addressing challenges in areas such as education, health, energy. And broadly, what we're hoping to do is push a culture of entrepreneurship and startup mentality. We want to encourage people to come up with new ideas to address the challenges that they see in Pakistan. So when we encourage people to consider entrepreneurship, we do this recognizing that while entrepreneurship is not necessarily primarily about solving social issues, it can be, because it's about solving problems. And most businesses do have a social impact, whether they realize it or not. And so we're encouraging people to adopt this idea that they can by looking into entrepreneurship and by starting up new initiatives and ideas make an impact. Although we don't promise that, of course, you will be able to do that. It's an opportunity for you to explore that and focusing on Pakistan social issues. So to quickly go ahead, I'm just taking a look at, I'm just waiting for someone to join, so just taking a look. Jeremy is there. Great. So in Pakathon 2015, this is our second event. We had an event in April in Toronto that was very well attended. We had 141 schools, which is an initiative that launched in the aftermath of the attack in Peshawar on December 16th, speaking about their experience of trying to launch a social initiative in Pakistan. And that was very well received. This year, what we're hoping to do with these events is to get to encourage people to come to better solutions by giving the issues more consideration and thinking more deeply about what is actually relevant. So we're hoping to educate you, inspire you, and connect you through these different mechanisms and have a stronger impact that way. The think tank team, which I am part of, is leading most of this work. So there's a few people who are already in the webinar who have been helping us out, and our goal is to again educate, inspire, and connect you so that we can have a stronger impact. And so today I've already taken 4 minutes, so I'll just quickly cut to the chase. We're really excited to be talking about energy in Pakistan, and we're going to be doing this just so you're aware of the format. We'll talk broadly about what does energy in Pakistan look like? What is the demand? What is the supply? What are the macro challenges? What is the government doing? And then we're going to focus down into what one organization EcoEnergyFinance is doing. And Jeremy Higgs, who's their co-founder and director of operations, will be joining us. And for the macro picture, we'll have Ammar Habib, who works at the National Investment Trust and also is an energy economist at Sino Sindh Resources Limited, will be joining us, as well as Nameerah Hameed, who is a policy specialist at the Energy Department of the Government of Punjab and an assistant manager at the Quaid-e-Azam solar power plant. So we have actually a really great diversity of speakers here. Ammar focuses on fossil fuels and big infrastructure developments in Sindh. Nameerah focuses on renewable energy and big developments in Punjab. Jeremy is off the grid, figuratively, or rather focusing on customers who are off the grid in rural areas in Pakistan. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is quickly pass this over to Ammar so that he can talk through some of the demand issues and talk about the general context of energy in Pakistan. Ammar, over to you.
Yep, all good. People can change the slide.
Yeah, just let me know. Sure. Okay, this is good?
Nope.
Which one do you want to go to?
Yeah, we'll go to number 10. All right, good morning to whoever's in Toronto and good evening to whoever's in Karachi. It's been a hot day. So, yeah, now let's focus on what exactly is happening in Pakistan on the energy front. Nabil, can you go back to slide number 10?
Is it this one?
Can you go back to the previous slide? Number 10, 10. Yeah. Okay, what exactly is happening in Pakistan? Now, whoever is living in Pakistan knows there's a lot of load shedding, electricity is, it's not continuous, and there's a huge percentage of population which is just not connected to the grid. So what I'm going to do today is basically explain what the macro situation looks like. Now, total demand for energy in Pakistan is roughly in the range of 23,000 megawatts. Now, and our total supply is roughly in the range of 16,000 megawatts. So what's happening is during the last few years, or let's say during the last 7 to 8 years, there has not been any addition to the capacity, to electricity generation capacity in Pakistan, because of which we have not been able to increase any supplies. Now, the demand continues to grow because we've got population pressure, we've got urbanization, we've got increasing income levels. So demand continues to grow, but supply isn't really growing. So what really is happening is we have an energy deficit of 6,500 megawatts. And when you have energy deficit, you will have load shedding. Enough electricity is not available for industrial as well as residential customers. And when you do not have enough electricity available for industrial or commercial customers, what happens is the economic growth rate takes a hit. It just slows down because there's idle capacity. There's idle industrial capacity because we just do not have the energy to produce more. So when you can really produce more, you won't really be able to push up the GDP. All right. Between 1970 and 2007, the electricity consumption growth was in the range of 7.68%. Now we need to understand that Pakistan was growing steadily during this period. So as electricity consumption grows, there is economic growth. There is a very strong direct correlation between consumption growth and economic growth. But between 2007 and 2015, the consumption growth has been barely 0.1%. And we can see again that during the last 7 years, there hasn't really been a lot of economic growth in Pakistan. We have hovered in the range of around 2 to 3% when the world was growing at the range of around 4%, and emerging markets were growing at 7% plus. Why was electricity consumption growth at such a low level during this period? Well, that's mainly because we didn't really have any supply. We didn't have any power plants in place to produce this electricity. Okay. Another thing we need to understand here is overall average of the globe, access to electricity is around 78% for the world, whereas for Pakistan, it's roughly 68%. So this effectively means that for 32% of the country, it's just not connected to the grid. Now, if you live in any of the urban centers, with Karachi, Lahore, or Islamabad, you will, you know what, you'll be surprised. Do people really exist? Do societies, do communities really exist? Just do not have access to electricity. Well, yeah, about 1/3 of the country simply does not have access to electricity. Now, we also need, as I've explained earlier, that due to lack of supplies, overall consumption growth was very low because there was just any supply, and it is estimated that the annual loss to GDP was in the range of $1.4 billion per annum. So basically what's happening is you've got commercial customers, you've got industrial customers, they don't have electricity, so they can't really produce more. We've got institutions there, we've got factories that was barely operating at 50% of capacity because they just cannot produce, they just don't have the electricity. And it has been estimated through various academic papers that roughly the lack of electricity, due to energy constraints, the GDP growth is actually just constrained by around 1.84%. So let's say if Pakistan had a GDP growth rate of 4% this year, if we had stable electricity supplies, we would be somewhere in the range of 6%. So this 2% shaving off of this 2% of GDP growth has a multiplier effect on unemployment levels, on job creation, on consumption levels across the board. So yeah, in order to grow, in order to attain macroeconomic growth, it is important that we have stable electricity supplies. We have stable and affordable electricity generation solutions. Next slide, Nadeem. All right. This is, we can see, this is a little bit of projection that I did a couple of months back. Now we can see that even if we assume growth of electricity demand in the range of 4 to 6%, the total demand will increase to more than 300 gigawatt hours. Now that effectively means that our energy, we need supplies in the range of 30 to 35,000 megawatts. Currently, our electricity supply is roughly in the range of 15,000 megawatts. So we need to more than double our capacity just to meet bare minimum electricity demand requirements. Again, due to political issues, due to political economy, due to whatever reasons in Pakistan, there has not been any capacity additions. And whatever capacity additions were there, they were largely on the furnace oil side. And I'm sure most people here know that furnace oil is a very, very expensive fuel. Well, it's fairly cheap right now, but 6 months back, when the oil was around $100 per barrel, the cost of generation via furnace oil was in the range of 20 cents per kilowatt hour. Now, you can generate same electricity at around 5 cents per kilowatt hour for gas, roughly 4 cents per kilowatt hour for hydro, and around 4 to 5 cents per kilowatt hour for nuclear. So whatever capacity we added during the last 15 years, that was in furnace oil, and it was very expensive. So when you add expensive electricity to the mix, the overall cost to consumer also increases. When the overall cost to consumer increases, the purchasing power goes down, and the government, in order to make its constituents happy, provides subsidies. So I'm not sure if a lot of people are aware here, but there's a thing known as the circular debt in Pakistan. So basically, because of these subsidies, because of growing subsidies, the government continues to pitch in with more cash, continues to pitch in, inject additional cash into the system as subsidies, just to ensure that electricity remains affordable for those at high risk. So we've got two takeaways here. Firstly, Pakistan does not have sufficient electricity generation capacity. Secondly, whatever capacity we have, the weighted average cost is very expensive. Now going forward, what we need to do is increase capacity and ensure that low cost capacity is in place so that overall economic cost is lower. All right, this is a slide. Basically, these are some infographics which were shared by IFC a few days back. Now, we can clearly see here that with a population of 197 million, only 53 million or around 25% of households get more than 12 hours of electricity a day. And that does not mean 24 hours. They may be getting 13 hours or 14 hours. Again, then there's this huge chunk of population, 75 million people who get less than 12 hours of electricity per day. And then you've got like 70 odd million people who are just not connected to the grid. So it's fair to say that roughly half of the population of the country still lives in some sort of stone age because they just don't have access to electricity. That's it. Okay, next slide. Okay, it is also essential. Again, this infographic has been shared by IFC, and it is essential to consider how much a regular household spends on electricity. Now, it is estimated that roughly 1,800 rupees per month is spent on electricity bills, and 800 rupees per month is spent on alternative lighting products. Now, when you don't have electricity, you will go for other solutions. You will go for diesel generators. You will go for solar solutions. You will go for batteries, lithium-ion batteries, etc. So people are still spending money because they need some sort of energy. Now, what needs to be done is we need to develop a scalable electricity generation solution because consumption is already there. Spending power is already there. It is responsibility of both public and private sector to ensure that whatever spending is being done actually goes towards projects which generate scalable electricity rather than makeshift or modular solutions associated with alternative lighting products. Next slide.
So Ammar, I can just quickly mention here that the next slide is on off-grid, and I think we'll be coming back to these slides in a few seconds, but I think I would really appreciate if you can talk about the energy mix. You had touched upon it before, how we're using furnace, but I think this will.
Can you skip to the slide? Yeah, this is perfect. All right. So what's happening here in this graph is basically we can see that for Pakistan, RFO, which is furnace oil, makes up 35% of total energy generation capacity in Pakistan, whereas globally it's around 6%. So our mix is skewed towards furnace oil. Why? We've got a number of political reasons, and pretty much political reasons, because between 2002 and 2008, a lot of power plants were established which were focused on furnace oil, but furnace oil got expensive and the cost of generation associated with furnace oil also increased. Now, hydel makes up 30% of the total energy mix in Pakistan. Now, this is very, very crucial because hydel is a very cheap source of electricity. The cost of generation via hydel is around 4 cents. And more importantly, hydel is a renewable source. You're not contributing carbon friendly. The carbon emissions are fairly less because hydroelectricity. So this is what we need to focus on. The two major dams in Pakistan, Tarbela and Mangla, are the major sources of hydel generation. Another dam which has been in the pipeline for over 30 years, that is Kalabagh Dam, has not been established due to various political reasons. Now, if we establish that dam, what will happen is that overall cost of generation will also reduce. Natural gas makes up 30% of our mix, whereas globally it's around 20%. Again, natural gas is also renewable. And finally, nuclear makes up around 6% in Pakistan, and for the global mix is around 15%. Again, Pakistan is one of the few nuclear powers in the world. So it does, the easiest possible thing to do is establish nuclear plants across the country because nuclear energy is cheap, nuclear energy is clean. So what Pakistan needs to do going forward is focus more on nuclear and hydro, so that we've got renewable electricity sources which are also cheap. And more importantly, we need to reduce dependence on furnace oil. Okay, that's it. Thanks.
Great. So Jeremy, I'm going to make you a presenter now. So you can now share your screen and your slides. Jeremy, can you speak up?
Yep.
Right.
Yep, I'm here.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm needing you for you to share your slides.
Yeah, I've done. Is it coming up okay?
Yeah, came up. Perfect.
Great. Okay. Good morning, good evening, everyone. My name is Jeremy Higgs. I'm the co-founder and director of operations at EcoEnergyFinance. And I just want to tell you a little bit about what we're doing, as well as the path that we've taken to get to where we are. And Ammar has given some good food for thought, and I'll try and touch upon some of those points as well. So as Ammar mentioned, there's around 70 million people in Pakistan that lack access to the electricity grid, full stop, which means that there's no connection at their home. There's plenty of people that have connections, but then because of the general load shedding, they don't actually get high quality electricity, and it's not reliable. Putting that into perspective, it's essentially the entire population of Turkey in Pakistan without power. That's a huge problem because it significantly affects the productivity of all the people that don't have access. The additional problem is that financial services don't reach rural Pakistan. Now, I'll put this in context where even if we were to put solar systems, to the cost of $200, 20,000 rupees, in every shop, on every corner shop throughout the country, people would still not be able to afford them because they can't pay the 20,000 rupees in cash, and no bank or microfinance bank is going to give them a loan for the 20,000 rupees for them to pay it off over the course of 2 years, for example. And this is something that we've found in the past couple of years of working in rural Sindh. 13% of the country has a bank account. The presence of microfinance banks in urban and peri-urban locations only means that they don't reach the vast majority of the off-grid population. And the lending criteria of the microfinance banks also excludes a large part of the population as well, because people don't have salaries and they don't run businesses. Typically, at least in rural Sindh, if you go out in these areas, a lot of the money, a lot of the revenue and income is coming from agricultural land, and that does exclude a lot of people from those financial services. So the result of that is that energy solutions are unaffordable for rural off-grid customers. And what happens, and this is actually based off the Lighting Pakistan survey that Ammar mentioned, they spend $2.2 billion every year on poor quality lighting solutions. On a household level, we see people spending anywhere from $3 to $10 a month on lighting alone, and then they'll spend another, I think, $10 a month, $10 to $15 a month at least on charging their mobile phone, because they'll have to travel to a grid-connected village or town nearby. They spend a couple of hours waiting for their phone to charge. They spend money on transport getting to and from as well. So it's a very expensive procedure. And so what we do is, to address this, is we make clean energy affordable and accessible to rural Pakistan. This involves marketing the products through reseller networks, through community events. We sell the products, again, through these networks. Our staff go to villages and to households to inform people about these products and make the sales. We service the products. On the left, you'll see that there is a little graph which shows a 24-hour clock. We're able to monitor the usage of our devices remotely through GSM connectivity, and we can see when people are charging their devices as well as when they're using it, and monitor for faults and things like that. And then we also finance them. We work with a couple of what are called pay-as-you-go solar vendors that are based internationally, called Bbox and Angaza, and these technologies allow us to break down the payments of our products into smaller amounts over the course of 18 months, so anywhere from like 6 to 18 months, depending on the product. And that makes it much more affordable for the customer. And in the case where the customer doesn't pay, we also have the ability to shut off the device, either remotely or automatically. And globally, what we've seen is that this has unlocked affordability significantly. Like East Africa, for example, is a hotbed of innovation. Within the pay-as-you-go solar space, there's, I think in the first 2 months of the year, there was around $48 million in investment that flew, that came into a couple of East African-based companies in this space. So it's definitely, we feel that this is going to unlock a lot of opportunities for rural electrification across the world. The products that we provide range from meeting the needs of households, so these are small portable solar lanterns, particularly provided by D-Light and Greenlight Planet, all the way up to tube lights, fans, powered by 30-watt systems, and then it goes up to small businesses which need to charge multiple mobile phones or run TVs in their dhabas, for example. That's been a huge use case for our customers where they can run a TV for around 6 hours a day and actually increase the revenue within their tea stall, because people lack entertainment, and so they'll come to the tea stall, they'll drink more tea, which means that the store owner earns a lot more money. And so what we're trying to do there is provide a range of products that are able to meet the energy needs of our customers. And what eventually happen is that they'll buy a tube light, or they'll buy a system to charge their mobile phone, and then they'll add a fan onto that. They then may add a TV, they may add a fridge, and their ability to pay will increase over time because they'll be able to use these products for productive uses, but their demands will increase as well. And so there's generally like a flow-on effect of prosperity, more productive businesses, more productive households, and these people will be contributing more to the economy of the country as well. So that's the long-term goal here. All right, where's the next slide? So we've been operating for about 4.5 years now. We spent about 2.5 years just doing our initial research, and we've been operational with full-time staff on the ground for a little over 2 years. And I mean, I think there are some things that we have, that we're pretty proud of achieving in the past couple of years. There's maybe some opportunities that we've missed, some things that we haven't done so great, and I'm happy to go into those a little bit more. But in terms of our achievements, when we started, the initial feedback that we were getting is that people would only buy, people wouldn't shell out money for better quality or high quality products because they were used to buying cheap $2 to $5 torches that were imported from China, and that they would, they were only willing to spend $3 a month on these torches, and it's a very difficult market, and you guys won't be able to do anything, and no one's going to buy these solar products. But what we've been able to do over the past 10 years is sell over 10,000 solar lanterns through our field staff and through our reseller network. And people have come back to us and said that we actually do appreciate that these lights are robust, that we can throw them across the room and they're not going to break. And these have made a lot of difference because now we have something that we can rely on. One of our customers in an interview actually said that when I buy one of the cheap torches, I don't know if it's going to stop working tomorrow or in 6 months' time. So when you provide a product that has some reliability, I think it does, it can improve their life in some small way. We've demonstrated the ability of our customers to pay. Most of them have not been able to pay in cash, as I mentioned before. But when you break the products down into manageable installments, which are really comparable to what people are already spending, then they are willing to pay because it matches their cash flow. And so 79% in credit, and customers have been paying us back. So I think the common perception is that rural Pakistan has no money. They're not going to give you money, and they're only going to be recipients of charity. And we've learned and we've demonstrated that that is not the case. That people will pay for high quality goods. We've also demonstrated the viability of technology, both solar as well as the concept of pay-as-you-go. We've conducted pilots of mobile-enabled solar devices. These are lanterns that connect to smartphones and then which get credit transferred to them from a smartphone, as well as larger solar systems which actually have GSM chips in the back and allow us to do remote monitoring as well as remote shut-off and enabling. And these products have worked very well. We're very happy with them, and we are moving forward with a larger rollout of these products. In terms of the challenges, this is more something perhaps operational, but getting information back from far off staff who are geographically dispersed is difficult, particularly when they're not. What's the word? I mean, maybe. They're not. They don't have someone sitting on their head at the end of the day and saying, "All right, fill out this form." We've had to really implement working principles, and I think we've done it well, but we still run into issues. What we have been doing is equipping, since the start, all of our staff with smartphones, and then they've been submitting surveys at the end of every day based on, the people that they're talking to, the sales they make, collections they make, the retailers and resellers that they register. But there are challenges with that, and we're actually working on a more comprehensive system that it's almost like an ERP, which keeps all the cash, inventory, sales, and collections in sync. But that's just, I think, part of the growth process. The other challenge is inadequate access to funding for growth. So we've done a pilot of 50 systems. Our next 50 larger solar systems. Our next goal is to get 1,000 customers using these products. But the cost of these products is much higher. A couple of $100s each. The payback period is 18 months, and so accessing working capital in order to first get those products into the country, pay the manufacturer, and then make sure that we don't run out of money in the process is a big challenge. And so we found that there was plenty of money available for the small pilots, but then once you start talking to early stage investors, particularly those that may be interested in Pakistan, it's quite difficult. And the local banks are generally very reluctant to provide working capital because as a startup, we don't have millions and tens of millions of rupees of assets, and certainly not a huge amount of cash lying around. And so there are different ways of financing this, creative ways which we're pursuing, but it's not as easy as one would hope. In terms of going forward, we're working on securing the funds to roll out these pay-as-you-go solar products to 1,000 customers. And what we're really trying to do is position ourselves as the company that will provide asset financing to these customers because they're not touched by the banks, as I mentioned. And so at the moment they may want pay-as-you-go solar home systems, but maybe there are a whole bunch of poultry farms out there which again need financing of solar products, or there are farm landholders who need solar water pumps because the diesel water pumps are far too expensive, but they'll need financing for that. And so as our staff are actually reaching that last mile, we want them to be able to do credit scoring at the point of sale and to figure out if this customer has the ability to pay, and if so, within a day we deliver the product. And it's moving in that direction. And that's I think we pass back to Nabil or Nameerah.
Hi guys, sorry, give me a second now. I'm just going to take back control from Jeremy. Thanks, Jeremy, that was fantastic. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to share that slide deck once again, and let me know when you see it. Okay, so and since we have Nameerah who's just joined, Nameerah, glad to have you with us. I know you had some delays coming in from work, so I'm glad you can make some time. Before we go into questions, we're 5 minutes over, but can you just quickly talk about the work that you are doing both with the government of Punjab and the solar park that just launched? Just for a few minutes, can you just talk about what's happening and what your role is?
Yes, absolutely. I'm happy to join in. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm just going to turn off your webcam. But please go ahead. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, hopefully it's working. In case it's not, I'll just. Okay, perfect. So basically, the government of Punjab is probably the only province in Pakistan that is very pro-focused at the moment, especially compared to the others. So with the Chief Minister, Shehbaz Sharif, he's sort of very keen on increasing the role of renewables in the energy mix of the country. It may also be because Punjab doesn't have resources of its own, like Sindh and Balochistan does. So what the government is doing, for example, one of the projects was to sort of act as a catalyst to have more solar projects in the country. So the main example of this being Quaid-e-Azam solar power project in first at Bahapur. So the idea was to put in 100 megawatts of solar power in the national energy mix, so that the rest of the 900 megawatts, for example, for the solar park, be joined by private sector. So the government wants to act as a catalyst, start the um, energize the market, and then so the private sector is there. One of the other projects that the government is keen on doing is also including LNG in the mix. This is because a lot of the IPPs that are operational in Punjab, they've run out of local gas supply. So they're not at the moment. So what the government is doing, Punjab government took the initiative to actually start the import of LNG with, and they had to deal with extra gas. So the Ingro was sort of took the lead in making the in Karachi, in Sydney, and now we have the LNG terminals on board, and now the LNG imports will start. They've started, one of the shipment has been done already, but now the more of the thing will be take place soon. One of the other, the third project that I want to mention is also coal. Coal would be used to meet the base load requirement. Even we realize at the government level that renewables should be added more to the mix, but renewables would not be able to meet the base load requirement. It would only be able to meet the peak load requirement. So coal is being used, may meet the base load requirement. Moreover, one of the other sort of projects that we're starting soon is wind company. So on the same sort of initiative that Quaid-e-Azam Solar Power Company was launched, Quaid-e-Azam Wind Company will be located too. Again, the government wants to act as a catalyst, put the first turbine in Punjab so that the private sector then joins in. So that's the overall brief on what the energy department and government are doing. Over to you.
Great. Okay. So once again, thank you all for your great you know brief presentations. Lots of information there. And now I'm just gonna start asking some questions, if that's okay. And the audience, I know a bunch of you have sent in questions already as well. I'm going to ask the audience again. Please start asking any question that you have. If you share them through the tool here, all the panelists, Ammar, Jeremy, and Nameerah can see them, and they can choose to respond from there. But I'm going to start off asking questions. And of the questions that we've received, I can also share that some of them were just about the macro picture. But I want to talk about and this is my first question, I guess either Ammar or Jeremy can answer as they want. Where do you think your work intersects? So, because you are obviously dealing with different populations, but Ammar, what do you think the work of EcoEnergyFinance on reaching off-grid customers means for the broader picture? And Jeremy, what do you think of the same thing as well? And you're both unmuted, so you can just start speaking.
Yeah, I think I'll start with a macro picture here. What? No.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So I'll just give a more macro picture. Not what Jimmy is doing is really, just some groundbreaking stuff. Because as I said earlier, we need access to electricity. You need electricity, some sort of access to electricity to attain economic growth, to have process of industrialization. Now, what Jeremy is doing, Jeremy is providing the necessary impetus, the necessary groundwork for those who just don't really have access to electricity. Now, once these guys will have access to electricity, they will have access to mobile phones. Once these guys have access to mobile phones, they will have access to commerce solutions. And once they have access to commerce solutions, they can be a part of the large trading community. What's happening is, by providing electricity, by providing off-grid solutions, Germany is enabling around 70 million people of this country to contribute positively in economic growth. But off-grid solution, I would say it's temporary. It can be there for a year, it can be there for 3 years, but that doesn't mean you're going to change the face of the nation with off-grid solutions. The government and the private sector needs to come together to enhance overall access to electricity in Pakistan. Now, let's say, I'll just give you an example of Thar, because I'm like deeply involved with the coal project in Thar. That particular area just does not have any access to electricity. Now, we're establishing coal power plants in Thar desert. We will have transmission lines there. Then these guys will have access to stable electricity. And once they have access to stable electricity, they will be able to establish commercial industries there. They can just start up small businesses. They can start up cottage industries. So that just completely changes the way these guys work, operate, and live. With off-grid solutions, more of a temporal thing. You're like, you know what? You can charge a mobile phone right now. When it's night, you can watch some TV, and that's about it. Will contribute to economic growth only to a certain extent, but you need stable electricity which is available for 24 hours or at least 15 hours to ensure that you're actually including the population in the growth mix. So this is what I feel. Whatever Jeremy and his team are doing is excellent. This is enabling those people, but going forward, we need strong, sustainable baseload solutions. And by baseload, I mean we need to focus on fossil, we need to focus on nuclear, we need to focus on idle. The government can't really be absolved of the responsibility just because companies like EcoEnergyFinance are going out and just providing off-grid solutions. I think that's pretty much about it from my end.
Thanks, Ammar. And Jeremy, you had started to say something as well, so I'm sure you have something to say based on what Ammar has just.
Yeah, all I was actually saying is that maybe Ammar should start with the macro picture, and then I'll sort of talk at the more micro level. So that's fine. Yeah. So I mean, I think there is. I think the role that we're providing is that we recognize that there's a huge population that is off-grid. We also know that it's going to take a very, very long time for those for those residents to get access to the grid, if they ever do, because grid extension is also very, very expensive. And so I mean, I think like we're serving a need in those communities, and I think like with the existing with the existing power crisis, the government is unable to meet the energy needs of the grid-connected population, even if they were to give access to the 70 million people who are off the grid. It's actually going to make the energy crisis worse, because for everyone else they get even less power than they do at the moment. So even in the next 20 years, if that is resolved, 10 years if that's resolved, and then they do grid extension, it's still going to take a lot of time. Where I would differ with Ammar is whether this is a temporary solution, and I would say that there is as far as energy access goes, there's a spectrum. At one end of the spectrum, you have someone having no access to electricity, energy of any form, which means that at night all activities stop because you can't see, you can't study, you can't cook, you can't go visit other households, you can't tell if there's snakes in your house, and that's obviously a horrible position to be in. On the other end, you have people that have 24-hour access, and that's obviously where everyone should be, but I think we need to recognize that that's going to take time, and it's not a binary as well. For someone that doesn't have access to electricity at the moment, having light and being able to charge their mobile phone at home makes a huge difference. But as I said, the next step for them will be getting brighter lights, multiple lights within their house, then being able to power a TV and to be able to power a fan and eventually a fridge. And their needs and their demands will increase over time. Now, I don't think we should really be dogmatic about whether that is coming from solar, off-grid decentralized solar, or whether it's coming from the grid. If it is coming from the grid, fantastic, good for them. If we can provide a solution in the meantime or for the foreseeable future that meets their needs, then I'm happy to provide that need, because it means that someone has access.
Great. Thanks, Jeremy. That was really interesting. So we're getting a bunch of questions from the audience. I can just share quickly that we will not be able to hear you, but you can send in a question. Sorry, Jeremy.
That cut out?
Sorry, I cut out.
I was just saying that with the grid, good quality energy access may not be 24/7 as much energy as you want. But, it is a good deal better than what they have now, and over time, to increase the amount of energy being supplied to these customers, by allowing them to upgrade from a 17 amp hour battery to a 38 amp hour battery, for example, and that's something that we're building in Ammar, so that as energy demand increases, we're there to supply it.
Great. Can you guys hear me? Hello? Can anyone hear me? I think you should be able to hear me now. Okay, perfect. Sorry, there's some distortion happening. So we've talked about what these things mean, but some people are also asking, a number of the questions seem to be around, and these are almost two questions. I guess both Ammar and Nameerah can answer them, and Jeremy might have something to chime in on, which is about what's happening. What's happening with the conservation? So we're generating lots of energy, but we're also losing a lot of energy, right? And I know, of course, that there's a lot of losses that we experience at the distribution level as well. So what is the government doing to prevent those kinds of losses beyond meeting the demand gap? And also, what is the government trying to do to conserve energy, right? So are there any public education programs? Yeah, can you talk about those a little bit?
Yeah, I'll start with that. Transmission and distribution losses are a major issue for Pakistan. Karachi has the lowest transmission and distribution losses in the country at around 22%. And mainly because K Electric, which was privatized in around 2008-2009, has been able to steadily bring these transmission and distribution losses down. Now we're looking at a city of around 23 million people, which is greater than the population of Saudi Arabia, Spain, like big countries in the world. You've got a city which is the size of most countries. It's really difficult to manage transmission in such areas. Now you've got low-income areas, you've got areas which are heavily infested with crime. So what needs to be done is to increase overall recovery. Now, transmission and distribution losses can be of two types. One, either through loss of energy during transmission, or people just not willing to pay their bills. Now, a large number of electricity consumers in Pakistan don't really like paying their bills. Electric has been successful in enhancing its recovery, in bringing down its T&D losses. It has been focusing on capital expenditure. It has been replacing its old faulty wiring with new, more efficient wiring. So in Karachi, we are looking at efforts being put in place to reduce such losses. Now, there's still a lot of way to go, but Electric has been able to reduce losses by roughly 17%. Now, that's huge considering the size of Karachi. Overall, across Pakistan, in Lahore, in Peshawar, or whatever, transmission and distribution losses not being brought under control. Now, we can say that the distribution companies there are public owned, they are owned, managed by the government, and they just don't really have the incentive or the motivation bring such losses under control. Electric, being a shareholder-driven company, had the incentive to bring these losses under control and enhance overall profitability, while the state-owned entities don't really have that motivation. So I would say the government isn't really doing a lot in replacing inefficient transmission infrastructure. However, it's still working towards establishing new infrastructure, new transmission lines to provide access to those areas which are of the grid. But existing areas, I don't really think that the government is doing a lot in reducing transmission and distribution losses. So it's basically the key takeaways from this issue are A, the transmission network is very old and I would say fully depreciated. And B, people just don't like to pay their bills. That's about it. There have been certain campaigns where the government encourages people to conserve electricity, to ensure that, you know what, just use a little bit of electricity, just not use it all the time or whatever. But I don't really think that such incentives or such steps have shown any substantial decline in consumption of electricity or consumption, because again, it's more of a cultural thing. People here feel that they are entitled to cheap electricity. But there's a cost for electricity, and you know what? If someone else is not paying their bills, someone else is going to pay that one. So it's a zero-sum game. That's pretty much about it. Nameerah can maybe add something to this.
Yes, so that gave a very good overview of the transmission and distribution losses. But I was just thinking maybe to add more to it from another aspect is also looking at green buildings. So one of the initiatives that the Punjab government is currently looking at is also sort of acting as a catalyst to have one of the first energy efficient buildings. Now I know that a lot of buildings in Pakistan claim to be energy efficient. For example, they would have more insulated walls and windows, and I claim to have, energy being generated from solar, but it's more sort of as a fashion accessory than actually being 100% zero carbon emission building. So one of the projects that we are looking at is also creating a building from scratch, which is green in the truest sense of the word. So any energy that is generated is from renewable resources, and it's not contributing any carbon emissions. So it's sort of zero carbon emission in that sense. So just wanted to add that aspect to this as well.
I would like to add something here. We're talking about carbon emissions. I would like to say that overall, at least for everyone's education, for the audience, carbon emissions for Pakistan are very, very low. Like if you take a comparison of what 200 countries, Pakistan is somewhere in the range of 160. Carbon emissions per capita for Pakistan are very, very low as well. Because again, we don't really have a lot of capacity, and whatever we have, largely gas, nuclear, and hydro. So I just believe we still have a room to emit more carbon dioxide.
Great, great.
I mean,
Thanks, Ammar.
that's a contrarian view. I'm sure people hate me for it, but that's about it.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry. Sorry to cut you off there, Ammar. I want to now bring a question for Jeremy. So this is building on a comment that Maheen Iqbal made, which was, and she had actually asked the question, but I'm going to turn this into something for Jeremy. And the question was about, creating mega dams, right? Like the Kalabagh Dam that Ammar spoke about. So Maheen was mentioning that a big infrastructure project can create disparities in distribution and displacement of rural Pakistanis, environmental degradation. So these mega projects can be really good for the energy mix, but can have adverse effects for Pakistanis on the ground. And so, I mean, she's trying to focus it back. What is actually helpful for people, right? Uh, and I'm wondering, Jeremy, can you talk about what kinds of things have you seen your customers doing, right? How are your products helping them? And also, can you talk about if the idea is to give those customers options, right? And, freedom, as Amartya Sen would put it, then can you talk about the different financing solutions that you are offering to your customers? Misbah Zafar had asked that question a few minutes ago.
Sure. So I think the key here is that what we're trying to do is provide options and choice to our customers. When you work and when you visit these areas, it's very clear that people just don't have options. They may be able to buy a battery-powered torch, but that's pretty much it. They don't have access to bank accounts, they don't have access to credit, and they obviously don't have access to electricity, so there are very, very few choices that they have, even if they wanted to improve their quality of life, even if they wanted to improve the productivity and the profitability of the business that they run. And so what the role that we take is that we want to make these products affordable in these communities and all these businesses, and provide them a range of products to meet those needs. So at the very low end, what we might do is provide a household system for, I think the base price at the moment that we're trialing is around 799 rupees, with just a couple of lights and a mobile charger. And then that's on actually a perpetual rental basis. But if they wanted to own that, they might pay around 1,500 per month for 18 months, after which they would own the product. So we do provide some flexibility in the ways that people pay for these products. And I think that over time, like, we will figure out, we'll get a better idea of if perpetual rent versus a rent-to-own installment plan works better. So, for those customers, they can get a basic system. If they want, they could add a fan onto it. If they want, they could even add a TV. It really just depends on their ability to pay for that product. And I guess the beauty of the technology that we're using is that if they can't pay for it, their device will be disabled, and it'll be clear to us and it'll be clear to them that that is unaffordable for them. But obviously, we don't want to get that stage. So that's why we do due diligence and credit, and are moving towards doing credit scoring at the time of sale. If you move up a little bit, we have small businesses that are using our products to actually generate revenue for themselves or to increase business continuity. So a very simple one is that you may have someone who is operating a general store. They might sell torches, they might sell food, they might sell FMCG products. And what they do is that normally, without any electricity, their shop would have to close at the time of sunset. And what our products enable them to do is to hook up a couple of lights, maybe even a fan. But during the day, they can keep cool, but at night they have a shop that is bright. And given that there's no electricity in a lot of these areas, their shop will stand out. So they'll attract more customers, more business coming to the shop, and then that will allow them to actually earn more money. And this is something that's made up and flow back into the family. Their family will be able to eat better. The shop owner's children will go to school, and so there are a whole host of flow-on effects there. The other type of customers that we tend to have, we have a couple of people using these products on poultry farms, where they need light around the clock. We have people that are using them to charge mobile phones. We have a configuration that can charge 10 mobiles 10 mobiles at a time. And so what they'll do is, rather than people going 20 kilometers to the nearest electrified village or town, they'll stay in their own village, and they'll pay their local vendor 10 rupees to charge their phone, and saves them a lot of time, and it's great for that local businessman. And then the other example that I mentioned is where someone is running a store and they use a TV to actually provide entertainment to their customers, which means that the customers are spending more time in the harbour, and therefore spending more money on tea. That's more revenue for the business owner. So there is a whole host of different use cases for different benefits that we've identified over the past couple of years. And these really have just come through having conversations with our customers and trying to understand what are the needs that they have, what are the pain points that they face, and then working out what kind of products and services we can provide to meet those needs.
Great. Jeremy, thank you for that comprehensive response. It's 101, so what I'm going to do here now is I'm just going to have to wrap up, unfortunately. We have lots of really great questions asked by a number of people. People are talking about, and what we're going to do now is, and I'll mention here, if you see my screen, you'll see there's a link, moot.com/Pakathon #energy. Go on there, you can ask your questions there. We're going to be asking Ammar, Nameerah, and Jeremy if they have time, if they can answer the questions, they will do so. Some of the questions are really, really interesting, and I think we can get some good responses online. So this conversation will continue happening, but for now we'll have to wrap up. I'd like to quickly thank Jeremy, Ammar, and Nameerah for taking out your time. That was a lot of information, really interesting, and really gave a good overview of there's a huge demand gap, and that the government is trying to overcome through a variety of different ways. I think one of the big takeaways for me has been that usually when you hear about energy in Pakistan, it's a depressing kind of story, but what I'm hearing is not depressing at all. It's a really positive, optimistic picture, in the sense of there's a lot of work that is happening, that the government is doing at the federal and provincial levels. The private sector is stepping up. There's a lot of potential in there that can be tapped. And those are all really encouraging signs for me. So I'm going to now remind everyone that this is part of the lead up for our hackathon, global hackathon in October, and the hackathon will be taking place in Karachi, in Lahore, in Islamabad, in Toronto, in San Francisco, New York, all over the world. It's going to be in at least 15 to 20 cities, if I'm not wrong. Someone at the headquarters will probably come after me for saying this. I'm not entirely sure of what the cities are for this year, but there's going to be a number of places where the hackathon will be taking place. We want to see you there, and we'd love for you to continue following us online. Visit our website, pakathon.org. On Facebook, we are PakathonTO, and Twitter as well, PakathonTO. Ask your questions on Moot, yeah, we've been recording this, so I'll be posting this recording online as well. If you have any further questions, shoot us. You can put them in right now. And yeah, Ammar, Jeremy, Nameerah, thank you so much. This has been really fascinating, and I hope you enjoyed it as well. If you wanted to say something to close off right now, I'll give you 10 seconds each.
Thank you for the opportunity. I'm always happy to talk about what we do. I was just mentioning in the chat, I think, to the organizers that feel free to reach out to me on Twitter as well. It's just Jeremy Higgs. And I'm happy to answer questions afterwards or on the website that was mentioned. So thank you.
All right then. Great. Thank you so much, everyone, and have a great day. I'm going to end this right away. The office.